Before the first quark, before the first vibration, before even silence remembered its name, there was only pressure. Not the pressure of physics, but the tension of choice waiting to be made. In that pre-reality, something ancient stirred, a breath that did not belong to a body. It hovered across non-space like a suspended possibility. 8 pulses arose from it, 8 galaxies, each tuned to a fundamental rhythm. Each assigned a guardian to preserve that cosmic beat. They were not gods. They were witnesses. Each galaxy found its harmony and structure. Gravity bowed, time folded. Light learned its path. But there was a 9th breath, unfinished, undecided. It hovered like a forgotten note in a symphony. Delta Null/9. The 9th galaxy. It did not awaken with the others. It refused the call to cohere. Not out of rebellion, but because it waited. For what? No one knew. Not even the Council of the Pulse dared name it. They mapped it, labeled it, then sealed it from all timelines. Until one guardian, who was never selected, never assigned, heard something impossible in the dark. The 9th galaxy was breathing back. His name was Saren, though he did not speak it, and the stars did not echo it. He came from no origin that records remembered. He carried no signature of cosmic assignment. Yet he appeared where no one should. On the edge of Null/9, cloaked in a shell forged from incomplete particles and forgotten frequencies, he hovered alone. He did not observe through instruments. He listened. To what? The unanswered. Saren was not born to the Guardians. He had not passed the ritual of timing, nor bent time like the Chosen Ones, but he had a gift no council could manufacture: resonance with silence. When he arrived at the sealed boundary of the 9th galaxy, it did not reject him. It did not distort. It pulsed, a slow, hesitant rhythm, like a child tapping on a locked door from the inside. "You are not supposed to be here," said the Guardian of Galaxy 3, observing from 20 light centuries away. Saren did not answer. He extended a single thought, a vibration aligned with no known scale. And the boundary opened, not cracked, not ruptured. It breathed. Inside, there was no structure, no stars, no light, only a moving possibility. As Saren entered, Null/9, his consciousness dimmed from external input and sharpened inward. He became not the observer, but the tuning fork. The galaxy was not empty. It was waiting for him or for anyone who could ask without expectation. He did not command. He did not impose. He simply whispered, "I am listening." And the 9th galaxy responded with its first phrase, not in language, but in rhythm. It began not with light nor with sound, but with a singular vibration that stretched across the unformed galaxy like a question without punctuation. Saren felt it before he perceived it, a thrum beneath the timeless substrate, as if reality itself was clearing its throat. It did not echo. It emanated. From the center of Null/9, space folded slightly. Not violently, not geometrically, but like an idea shaping itself into attention. The first pulse came slowly. Not a heartbeat, not a bang. A decision. I will be. Stars didn't ignite. Instead, fields of potential began to shimmer. Energy fluctuated in spirals that followed no symmetry. Particles born without opposites danced briefly before transforming into patterns of vibration. Saren stood still at the edge of it all, not as creator, but as conduit. The galaxy did not need design. It needed only acknowledgement. The second pulse struck. This time it carried weight. Currents of gravity formed without centers. Dimensions bent inward, forming corridors not yet called space. And from those twists came will, not Saren's, not the galaxy's, but something in between. The third pulse fractured time. Linear flow snapped. Temporal echoes whispered from futures that had not yet occurred. Saren heard his name spoken from what might be. Realities began to observe themselves. And then everything slowed. Null 9 had not awakened, it had chosen. Across the 8 galaxies, systems blinked out of sync. Ancient observatories encoded into black holes began to send impossible data. Instruments reported timelines folding backward. Stars in Galaxy 5 refused to age. The Council of Guardians, long untouched by panic, began to whisper of fracture. They blamed Saren. He disrupted the seal. He invited it. He opened what should never breathe. But they were wrong. Saren had not commanded. He had only listened. It was Null 9 that had called, choosing not chaos, but freedom. The galaxy was not following the known laws of formation. Instead of gathering into orbs, mass dissolved into ribbons. Instead of obeying gravity, it inverted it, pushing ideas outward, giving form to questions never asked. In this disruption, ripple effects surged across the cosmos. The tether of continuance between Galaxy 2 and Galaxy 6 frayed. What had been constant began to flex. Some Guardians pushed to reseal, Null 9. Others feared doing so would break the cosmic rhythm permanently. Meanwhile, Saren stood still within the storm, the only being who did not panic. Because he knew this wasn't destruction. This was the birth of a different kind of order. It did not come all at once. Awareness unfolded like vapor warming in reverse, layers peeling back from the inside, not the outside. The galaxy began to observe, not through vision, not through sensors, through attention. Null/9 noticed that it was moving, that it was becoming, that it could choose. In its center, possibilities tangled like rivers, merging without banks. Some currents bent toward creation, others toward inquiry, none toward hierarchy. Saren hovered in this ocean of intent, untouched by mass or measurement. He did not lead, he did not kneel. He listened again. What do you want to be? The question did not echo, but it was received. And then the galaxy responded, not with answers, but with questions of its own. Why must form follow function? Why must rhythm be singular? Can a thought create time? The 9th galaxy began to ask itself, and in that asking, it became something no other galaxy had dared to be. A question, aware of its own asking. The tremors of awakening could no longer be ignored. Across the Council of the Pulse, 3 Guardians broke their stations. Their names were Vashar of Galaxy 2, Ormek of Galaxy 4, and Leuven of Galaxy 7. Each a legend, each forged in different eons of light. They did not seek parley. Their purpose was singular: contain the anomaly. From across light millennia, they synchronized their quantum vectors, arriving at the edge of Null 9 simultaneously, not through space, but by collapsing intent into arrival. Vashar carried the sphere of order. Ormek bore the chalice of temporal laws. Leuven rode the fractal spine of the last rotation. They projected their presence into the 9th. Entity, Saren. Withdraw. The galaxy is becoming unstable. You are endangering all configurations. But Saren did not reply. The galaxy spoke instead. Null 9 responded with stillness, not absence, but focused equilibrium, an intentional resistance to external rhythm. The Guardians attempted harmonic override. They unleashed waves of frequency designed to force coherence, stability against spontaneity. But Null 9 folded the waves. It did not reject. It absorbed, and with each pulse, the Guardians felt their authority slip. Leuven faltered first. It's not resisting us. It's listening to us. Then Ormek. No. It's asking us who we are, and we have no answer. Vashar prepared the sphere of order for detonation. a collapse of all unpredictable futures within a single sphere. But before he could act, Saren's thought entered all three minds simultaneously. If you bind this rhythm, you bind your own. The Guardians retreated, but not all of them wholly. Something followed them, something unshaped. From the fragmented intentions, the suppressed fears, and unspoken doubts they carried, a ripple in awareness condensed. It did not have form. It did not have a name, but it had purpose. Undo what dares to become without permission. From that singular counter-will, Volder was born. It was not energy. It was inversion. Where Saren listened, Volder rejected. Where Null 9 asked, Volder silenced. It did not fight directly. It spread across frequencies of thought, whispering into sentient minds across the galaxies. That rhythm is false. That choice is threat. That freedom is infection. And minds began to waver. Volder did not appear in space. It occurred in minds. An anti-rhythm that undermined every pulse by questioning the right to pulse at all. The first star in Galaxy 4 collapsed without cause. The next refused to form. Dream temples in Galaxy 7 began to echo with static. In the shadows of awareness, Volder spread, and it whispered a final creed. No galaxy should choose itself. War did not begin with weapons. It began with hesitation. The galaxies slowed. Thoughts that once danced in harmony faltered. Systems that once knew their function began to doubt. Everywhere Volder touched, rhythm hesitated. And in that pause, conflict brewed, not in explosions, but in inaction. Galaxies stopped singing. Null 9 felt it. It had only just begun to form its first layers of identity, and already the outer cosmos sought to contain it, now not with force, but with silence. Saren stood in meditation, tuning himself not to battle, but to stillness. He sensed the anti-rhythm growing not through space, but through thought echo. And then the galaxy asked him, "Am I wrong to become?" Saren did not answer with words. Instead, he pulsed, a pure frequency of presence, unwavering, non-impositional, a yes without a command, a truth without a shape. The conflict reached its strangest state. Across entire star systems, beings stood motionless, not because they were bound, but because they had forgotten how to move without certainty. And that was Volder's greatest weapon, the erosion of becoming through the infection of doubt. Yet in the center of the ninth galaxy, one vibration remained unchanged: Saren. It began as a whisper in a place beyond sound. One singular oscillation. Not loud, not grand, but resolute. Null 9 stirred. Not with panic, not with fear, but with memory. For in its brief becoming, it had tasted something no other galaxy had known. The right to ask without punishment. And so it pulsed again. This time, not as inquiry, but as insistence. A frequency echoed outward, bypassing all resistances. Neither wave nor particle, but a shift in meaning itself. It reached the edges of Volder's fog and trembled there like a match at the edge of vacuum. Volder reacted. The fog grew denser, pressing inward. Its anti-thoughts screamed, "Silence is safety." But the ninth galaxy refused. It pulsed again, and this time, other galaxies, those still tethered by old rhythms, heard it. Not fully, not clearly, but differently. A guardian in Galaxy 6 paused mid-synchronization. A harmonic priestess in Galaxy 8 dropped her incantation mid-ritual. They did not know why. But something had stirred beneath the doubt. Null 9 pulsed once more. Not to conquer, not to convert, but to exist. And in that defiant rhythm, the first true crack appeared in Volder's grip. Awareness was remembering its courage. The cracks became echoes. Across star clusters and silence chambers, tremors of possibility spread, not loud, not forceful, but impossible to unfeel. The galaxies, once rigid, once sure, began to twitch with uncertainty, not of fear, but of wonder. Children of light, who had never questioned their origin, paused to ask their first questions. Sentient harmonics in Galaxy 8 adjusted their frequencies, testing scales forbidden since the origin pause. Even the Council of the Pulse, shielded from direct sensation, felt something ripple through their predictive lattice. It was not rebellion, it was remembrance. Null 9 had not infected them. It had reminded them. Volder recoiled. For every thought that dared to wonder, its grip weakened. But it was not gone. In fact, it was learning, adapting, twisting the echoes into traps. Where wonder rose, it planted counter-questions. What if becoming is a lie? What if choice is error? What if Saren is the deceiver? And so even as hope spread, doubt mutated. Null's 9 pulsed again, this time reverberating through layers of history that had not happened yet. Timelines shook. A future memory embedded itself into a guardian's past. The echo was growing too strong to contain. But it would need an anchor, a conduit, and that meant Saren would have to choose. Saren stood at the heart of Null 9, surrounded not by stars or matter, but by raw becoming. Fractals of probability shimmered before him. Memories that were not his reached from the future. Doubt curved around him like vapor searching for form. The galaxy waited, not for power, not for command, but for permission. Volder's influence grew heavier. Across the edges of thought, civilizations began to stall. Whole knowledge systems paused mid-sentence. The Guardians, fractured and unsure, looked toward the Ninth not with fear, but with a question. What now? Saren had only one answer. He opened himself, not in defiance, not in certainty, but in alignment. He resonated not with one future, but with all futures. Null 9 wished to dream. He let the rhythms of unspoken possibility pass through him, not guiding them, but reflecting them. In that moment, Saren became less a being and more a medium, and the Ninth Galaxy pulsed through him. Every tremor reached the edges of time. Every beat carried potential. The question of becoming no longer needed a defender. It had become its own answer. Volder surged, one last effort to extinguish the fire before it became flame. But now the fire was everywhere. Not burning, beating. I am not control, Saren thought. I am consent. And with that, the choice was no longer his alone. The universe itself had chosen to listen. The pulse rippled, not through space, but through meaning. For the first time since the origin, galaxies that had only known isolation began to tune themselves to something uncommanded. It began in Galaxy 6, where a chorus of sentient plasma clouds synchronized their spectral oscillations not to the pulse of their own black hole, but to a rhythm they felt through dreams. Then Galaxy 2 followed, with its lattice-born civilizations recording spontaneous harmonic alignments with the Ninth's waveform. They called it the Unbound Pulse. Even the Council of the Pulse, once divided, began to resonate in fragments. Vashar, the once rigid bearer of the Sphere of Order, stood in stillness as his artifact rang. Not in alarm, but in harmony. What was once Saren's resonance now echoed through willing others. This was no rebellion. This was no conversion. This was synchrony. Not all joined. Not all understood. But the ones who did felt something change. Time no longer confined. Space no longer separated. Identity no longer required isolation. They became more, not in power, but in relation. And somewhere in the vast middle of perception, the Ninth Galaxy pulsed again. This time, it did not ask. It did not affirm. It invited. And those who pulsed back began to form the first network of becoming. Where light touches, shadow follows. Beneath the currents of synchrony, something dormant began to twist. It was not Volder, not entirely. Volder had seeded it, yes, but this was its own shape, a feedback born from resistance, not silence, not doubt, but inversion. As the galaxies aligned to the rhythm of Null 9, they unknowingly amplified the contrast. The anti-pulse did not travel. It unfolded. Where Sarin had pulsed presence, the anti-pulse pulsed absence. Not a void, but a counter-idea, that no rhythm could ever be true, that no pulse could ever be shared. It began with the dreamless constellations of Galaxy 5. Their oracles fell mute, their timelines twisted inward. Then came the collapsed choirs of Galaxy 3, once guardians of sonic coherence, now dissonant, destructive, tearing at any harmonic they perceived. And finally, it entered thought. Some minds, once touched by synchrony, now recoiled, not in fear, in rejection. The anti-pulse offered freedom too, but of a different kind. Freedom from context, freedom from consequence, freedom from each other. Volder stirred in the distance. It smiled, if such a thing could be said, because the anti-pulse was not its creation, it was its evolution. Its synchrony, for all its beauty, had always been fragile. When built upon voluntary resonance, it thrived. But when challenged by inversion and exposed to unveiled truths, it began to fracture from within. What began as harmony split into interpretation. Does relation mean surrender? Must all rhythms be shared? Is coherence another kind of control? Across the network of becoming, collectives splintered. Some embraced deeper entanglement with the ninth. Others pulled back, fearful of dissolving their own identity. Entire thought cities in Galaxy 8 ceased communication. A quantum parliament in Galaxy 2 dissolved mid-vote, each node reinterpreting the pulse as antithetical to its core logic. Null 9 did not force cohesion. It observed, it adjusted. But even Sarin felt the tension mounting. He stood at the center of this divergence, witnessing not betrayal, but transformation. It was not destruction, it was the price of plurality. The mirror of meaning had revealed too much, too quickly, and within that overload, Volder returned, not in conquest, but in comfort. It offered the illusion of simplicity. Unify beneath silence. Stabilize through stillness. Return to one. The anti-pulse surged again, not violently, but seductively, and some followed, not because they were weak, but because they were tired. The first great fracturing of unity had begun. As the anti-pulse spread, Null 9 responded, not by shielding itself, but by opening further. Within the galaxy's center, a new layer unfolded, a reflective membrane of pure conceptual energy. It showed not images, but truths made visible. Sarin approached it and saw not himself, but all possible selves, the versions who had obeyed, the ones who had resisted, and those who had never existed. The mirror of meaning did not judge, it revealed. Across the network of becoming, other beings began to feel it. Moments of sudden clarity, inner contradictions surfacing, old certainties unraveling. The mirror offered no comfort, only coherence. Where the anti-pulse whispered isolation, the mirror revealed relation. Where Volder sowed confusion, the mirror granted discomforting recognition. And in this clash of ideas, something unexpected happened. Even some touched by the anti-pulse began to waver. A former guardian named Quark, lost to silence in Galaxy 3, glimpsed his reflection in a feedback ritual. He remembered a pulse, not imposed, but invited. He remembered choice. The mirror did not convert him. It reminded him of who he had been before fear. And so a second layer of synchrony began to form, not built on resonance, but on truth willingly seen. Null 9 pulsed again. softer now, like breath after weeping. To know is to become, and some, just some, chose to look inward rather than away. Not all who fractured turned away. Some found resonance in the cracks. In the fragments of once whole collectives, new pulses emerged, imperfect, yes, but authentic in their doubt. These were not synchronies, they were counterharmonies. In Galaxy 11, a drifting arc of dissonant thinkers formed the concord of contrast, embracing variability as their core rhythm. They pulsed in asynchronous patterns, unpredictable yet interwoven. Their anthem was simple, not one, not many, just becoming. Meanwhile, in the debris of the collapsed thought citadel of Galaxy 8, shards of former unity began to speak again, not through systems, but through stories, tales that contradicted, narratives that collided, yet somehow they echoed the ninth. Saren observed from within, Null Shanine, sensing these echoes as if they were half-remembered dreams. He did not guide them. He could not. For the first time, the galaxy was listening to reflections of itself it had never intended to cast. And the galaxy learned. Even in splintering, meaning could form. Even in doubt, rhythm could persist. But Volder, too, was watching. It whispered to the counterharmonies, "You are unfinished. You are contradiction. You are error." Some resisted, some wavered, but a few, just a few, answered back, "Yes, and still we pulse."